Welcome to the Soul Revolution Tribe podcast, where we share stories, laughs, and even a few tears, but always a good time. We are about depth and real raw sharing through soul conversations and medicine. We are learning to find ourselves again and to be an unstoppable force of nature, ready to break down the constructs and rebuild them with love and acceptance at its core. We are the new world. Welcome back to the podcast. I have Liz here today. I am so excited to have her with us. I just want to give you a little bit of background on her. Liz is a holistic lifestyle advocate, and she is all about making self-care and self-love a simple lifestyle. She has overcome anxiety, addiction, and perfectionism, and she is breaking generational patterns and really living a worthy life. I'm just so happy to have you here.
Yeah, me too. Thank you. That is just so sweet. Oh my gosh.
Oh, I just love you. And before we go in further, I just wanted to share this is like fate moments, because
Yeah.
when we came, I was thinking back, I was like, how did I meet Liz? How did she come into my life? I remember that you reached out to me randomly, on Facebook.
Yep.
That's a beautiful, there's a love-hate relationship with social media sometimes.
Yeah.
But it was like you friend requested me and sent me a message of just
Yep.
hey, I see that we were in the same area. I love your energy and I just want to get to know you more. And I was like,
Yeah.
I could instantly, from that moment, I knew, I was like, this is my people.
Oh, yeah,
And
same. And that was why I sent that friend request,
because sometimes you get those requests and you can just feel the agenda
Icky.
behind,
Yes.
and I'm like that's not the case here. I didn't feel the love and it was a soul connection. That's what it was. It's I could feel
Yeah.
that connection on the other side, and yep, this was meant to be. We're meant to connect and just
Well,
blossom.
yeah.
And we needed each other in those moments. We did it.
Well,
We realized.
yeah, exactly. Because then once we got to talking, it was when we realized that both of our moms had passed away that year.
Yeah.
And so that was like you said, that was just a total fate moment. And the fact that we're still in each other's lives, it's just so special. And one of those meant to be things where the universe just sent you my way, and it was really meant to be. So
It's
yeah.
one of those in the back of our mind, the intention of I just want somebody to get me and hold space for me in this moment.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I can't speak for you, but that's for me.
Same.
I'm the
You've been so
glue.
kind.
I'm the glue in my family, and I allow myself, I'm emotional, but I allow myself to feel to a certain point, and then I shut it down because I have to be the strong one.
Yeah.
And I hold space for so many people, but at that point, especially with my mom, I would cry to myself, in behind closed doors and things like that, and allow myself to feel a little bit, but I never had somebody to actually listen and relate and ask me how I am feeling.
Sure.
It
Yeah.
was I was always checking on other people, but no one really asked me, how are you doing, Jackie?
Yeah.
I know
Oh,
you're
yeah.
worried about me, but how are you doing?
Yeah.
And it was that's what I said. I'm I just want somebody that gets me, and without even worrying,
Yeah.
like
Well, yeah.
you can just feel it. They
Yep.
and that was the thing. We had no clue about really anything about each other.
Right.
And it was
Right.
similarity. We all
It
have
was
the
left and
same.
right. Yeah. It was really cool. I mean, even our holistic journeys and
Yeah.
things like that, it's just been so interesting to learn how much that we really have in common. So,
Oh, I just love it. It was one of
mhm.
those blessings in disguise. I knew that it was going to be good, but I'm this is definitely a soul sister that gets
Yes,
me 100%, and then we can
totally.
relate on so many different levels. Oh,
Right. Yep.
right.
100%.
But yeah, with that, let's share a little bit for the listeners. What was your healing story? Whatever you're comfortable with sharing. How did you get from where you were to where you are now?
Yeah. So my story truly starts all the way back. I mean, I had anxiety starting in my mother's womb. My I come from a very angry household, and so my father is narcissistic, alcoholic. My mother was stressed my whole life, and so we really took the time to think when did this all start for me. And it's well, my whole life, it's been like that. And so my anxiety has been something that over the years just got worse and worse and worse. And so I was truly like, I was one of those people that used to think like, I guess I'm just meant to live a life of stress and anxiety. It's just like, it was like my life was running me and I just felt like I was trying to run from it. And so that was really how it was. And I even remember there were days where my mom would tell me to slow down, just slow down. And when I was younger, it was like, don't tell me what to do,
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
and I ran faster. And so it was just this really um thinking back about it, it is just so interesting to see how I just climbed this mountain of anxiety, that got to a point where it was like, oh gosh, I think it was like 7 years ago. I was in college and I remember like, okay, when you get up in front of like people to speak and whatever, you get
Oh, yeah.
nervous and you get shaky. But my shaking was so severe that it was like, what the heck? And it would happen when I would have to talk to people, and it would happen when I would have to give speeches. And so that was really where I started noticing that my anxiety was starting to like physio physio ugh, physically
Physiologically.
affect me. Um, but I still didn't realize that there was anything that I could really do about it until I really opened my eyes and dug in deep. And that was when I started. So this was like, um, at the end when I was getting done with college. I started using essential oils and doing yoga. Because at that time, like I said, I was dealing with that shaking, racing thoughts, and um, not sleeping. That was probably the biggest thing. I think on top of the shaking was I was maybe getting like 2 hours of sleep at night. And so as a college student, I was probably losing my mind. Like
Oh,
that's
yeah.
how it felt
Sleep
most
is
days.
crucial to health. We know that.
I know. I mean, nowadays I sleep well, but it's like that was just something that I didn't realize was affecting me. Like that's where I realized that that was my anxiety and my stress levels, and that
The
something
light bulb
needed to
kind
be.
of went off and
Yeah,
said something
yes,
inside was like,
something.
this is not normal. Maybe I do
No,
need to lean into this.
yeah, because sometimes you have those doubts and about life and stuff like that, and you just keep going on. But it was just so obvious at that time that it was not. I had to do something about it. So,
It's affecting your life.
um,
Like it was not
yeah,
able to function like a normally you'd
mhm,
be able to do.
exactly. And it was just really uncomfortable, like all the time. And so that was like, okay, yep. So that was good signs there. Um, but once that kind of shift of mindset happened, I started doing more personal development and focusing on healing my brain, um, and strengthening that, with books like Girl Wash Your Face. That one always comes to mind when I think of how I started like my healing journey. Was that book. Like it was just had
I
so
love that
many,
book.
so many moments of like, oh my gosh,
Well, I was
yes,
like, it's just real raw. Like this is how it is. Like I'm not sugarcoating
yes.
it. Like,
Mhm.
and you could relate to almost everything in that book. Like,
Well, and even me not being a parent, like there are still ways that I can
oh yeah,
shift every single thing she says in there to something that I can relate to. And so that just was something that I always think about when I started. And then another book I can think of is You Are a Badass.
oh yep, I read that one too.
So those two were like that part of my personal development started, and it's just blossomed to thousands of pages since then. But that's just it too, is something about healing is understanding that you need to keep doing it. You need to keep learning and growing, to keep healing.
It's a
And so
never-ending process.
no,
This is the journey of life. Is a healing
it
journey.
is. Yes. And so that's something that it's not an overnight process, and it's not a one and done.
Mhm.
So accepting that is like that was big for me.
Yeah,
Accepting that this is just going to be my life's journey now. that mindset shift really was good for
And not
that.
in a
So
negative way of saying like, this is how it is. And I get to every day I get to find a little more about me. The analogy that
yeah,
I use is like, you know how they say the onions have layers, but for
right.
me, like it's not like, it's like the journey inside with each layer going to like find another layer of me and going deeper to
I
that
love
core.
that.
Like that's where
Oh, I
it is.
love that.
It's not just shedding, it's the next layer is this is more closer to my truth. And this is, they're all aspects of me. And
Absolutely.
allowing myself to say like this wounded little anxious girl, because
Yeah,
I can relate too, like
yeah,
there's times where I was shaky, and I still kind of get to that point. It's like that part of me comes out and I get nervous because I love so deeply and I care so deeply and I
yeah,
desire so deeply that part comes up because it's like this deep root core wound of
yeah.
like not being good enough in rejection and pieces, and like the
Absolutely.
love on that little little part of me, like that little girl that just needs to be held in space and saying it's okay, you don't have to change. That's
Yeah,
not what I'm asking for you. I'm
yeah,
accepting you where you're at, meeting you
yeah.
where you're at, and just holding space for you to acknowledge how much love you have. And
Absolutely.
like that's how it is like just acknowledging each layer is important. It's not like you're just taking it and you're discarding it and throwing it in the trash
Mhm.
because it's worthless. Like it's not. It opens to this beautiful bouquet. It's almost like those blooming onions. Like that's what it reminds
Yes.
me of. It's like you're changing it into this beautiful blooming onion. My analogies that
Yes.
pop in my head are
No,
like
that's perfect. I love
I'm a foodie
it.
too. So I love food. So
Same, same, same.
but like that's for me is like I remember those times of like where I would be having panic attacks and literally laying on the ground in my 20s, like
Yep,
thinking that I was dying. Like
yep,
literally, I'm like, is this like I feel like I'm drowning and my heart is like having a heart attack at the same
yeah,
time. And I
yeah,
out of the middle of nowhere. But a lot of it is I realized a lot of the built up stress and anxiety that I was carrying that I kept pushing down and pushing
yeah.
down. And it's like that beach ball that you're pushing under the pool water and you're pushing
Right.
it down and pushing it
Yep.
down. And eventually it's going to snap and hit you in the face and push
Absolutely.
me on the ground,
Well,
literally.
right. That's such a good analogy.
uh, but so like I can totally relate to that. And like as you were sharing like the process of like you've never lived life without anxiety and stress. Like from the womb, people don't realize that the state of when you carry your child or your wife or who however, like those are imprinting, they feel the energy, they're a part of each other, and that affects you, and you carry that in whether your conscious mind remembers, but your
Yeah.
body does.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
so you know like that's setting the nervous system of like this is the normal state. So it sounds like as you're sharing is like you're go 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 because you're in that constant like fight and flight
Yep.
system, and you never
Yep.
knew how to shift, because even when you had moments of probably like the moments of oh, can breathe, oh my gosh, this feels uncomfortable, I don't know what to
Yeah.
do,
Well,
because
yeah.
it was normal.
It's yeah, calm moments are foreign to me, or they were foreign to me
Yeah,
because that was not how I lived my life. I ran.
yeah.
If I wasn't running, I was sprinting.
And it makes sense of like why we find and gravitate to the situations is because
Yeah.
we literally unconsciously we're creating situations to create more anxiety and more stressful situations because that's what we're used to.
Well, I was reading something the other day. Mel Robbins posted
Mhm.
it. So I have a hard time remembering my childhood and really like a good chunk of my life. And forever, like me and my mom would talk about it, and she'd tell me stories, and oh no, I don't remember. She'd show me pictures, and oh no, I don't remember. And I saw something that Mel Robbins posted the other day, and it brought light to this situation when it said something like, if you are someone who doesn't remember your childhood, that's okay. It just meant that you spent that time in survival mode,
Mhm.
wondering what was going to happen next, who was going to be mad at you, or what situation was going to go wrong. You are okay. As you continue healing, your memories may come back to you. And since I've been on my healing journey, there have been times that I've shared with my husband, just random times we're cruising down the road and all of a sudden a thought pops in my head and it's like, oh my God. And so when I saw this post the other day, I read it to my husband and he goes, oh my gosh, that's happening to you. And it was like, wow, just to
It's so
hear like,
true.
oh, it was just so cool that it was like a science thing that proves
Mhm.
that I'm there's nothing wrong with me. It
You're
just,
not. People need to get that like through their heads. Like
yes.
I had to learn that too. I'm not broken. I don't need
Uh-huh.
somebody to fix me.
I don't mean to be
There's nothing
fixed.
wrong with me. I just
Yeah.
come back to remember who I am. And
Yep.
that's okay that I don't remember now, because that is what our body is designed to do. If you think
Yeah.
about it, like when we're in states of stress, like trauma is defined differently to anyone. But in that moment of trauma, like for us, like in our body not feeling safe, we
Yeah.
pull away so we don't
Yep.
have to feel. We don't have to
Yeah.
feel the pain. Just like when you put
Absolutely.
your finger, you feel right away, and then you all of a sudden it like lessens, is because literally our energy is pulling away to
Yeah.
protect us. So in
Yeah.
those moments that we don't remember, it's saying our body loves us so much, it's saying she can't handle this right now.
I
Like
got you. Yeah. It's
I need to pull
trying
her
to
back
take
and
care.
yeah, I need to pull her
Yeah.
back and hold
Yeah.
her. And then those moments for me, like how I look at them when they pop up, is now I'm in a place where I can feel, I can
Yes.
receive. I have
Yes.
faith. And that I think is why I had my panic attacks when I did. Like it
Mhm.
wasn't out in the busy part of the day most of the
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
It was those in between where I allow myself the breather, or like in the
Uh-huh.
middle of the night, all of a sudden I would be like, I can't breathe. I don't know what's going
Yeah.
on. It's because my body finally kind of did its form of rest that it knew in the
Yep.
moment. It wasn't
Mhm.
fully rest, but it's what it knew is like, okay, well, at least I have a little breathing point. I can kind of let some of this energy out.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Um, there was even you saying cut your finger. This made me think of something else that happened that really was a huge realization for my anxiety situation. So I had such extreme adrenal fatigue that I was passing out from the lightest things, such as I was grating something with like one of those
Oh,
lemon
yep.
grater things, and I just nicked the corner of my finger, and I paused, and I dropped. And it was my body, it was literally just like my body went into shock. And then there was
It's
two
like
other
I
times.
can't give her any more stress hormones. They're
Yeah.
already flooding through.
Yes, and there was two other times in the year frame that had happened, and so that was something that was like, okay. And that's when I started doing the research, kind of trying to figure out, why am I passing out from the silliest little things? I bumped my knee on the corner of a table, and I woke up, I don't even know how much longer, to my dog's nose on my leg trying to wake me up. And so like eh, there were things that were like, okay, first I thought it was my fibromyalgia, but I was like, that's not, fibromyalgia doesn't do that. And so then it was like a deeper dive into like, why am I passing out? And
A
so
defense
learning it was
mechanism.
adrenal fatigue, I immediately went into like, what can I do to heal this mode?
Well,
And
it's
that
not
was,
shared.
yeah,
You don't
it's
hear
not.
people talking about that all the time. And like, we live in a constant stress environment. Not
Hmm.
only like if we're not centered here in our upbringing and what all of that, our personal package, but
Yep.
in the environment around us is constantly stressors
Oh yeah.
us. And I know that that's a
Absolutely.
part of your journey too, is just as mine, is like that holistic lifestyle is so important, because we're bombarded, like we already are working on our inner world, and the
Yep.
outer world bombards us too, is trying to get some of these toxic loads that we can
Right.
control away. And then, because I mean, there is inevitable things that you're it's going to be, not that I won't say nothing's impossible, but it's
Yeah.
really hard to shift
Yeah.
away from and still maintain whatever our normal life that we desire. I mean, we're not going
Right.
to live in a bubble. Like I'm not going to be a bubble boy.
No.
Like that's not a way to live life either.
No.
There's this balance. But what I can do is try to take the toxins that I can and detox my house and things like
Yeah.
that. And
Yep.
that and that's for you. Like I know you do Monet, and that's how we kind of started too, is trying to find like healthier alternatives to
Right.
these products that are hiding all
Hmm.
these toxins in our system. Same thing
Yeah.
with essential oils.
Those
Instead of turning,
stressors.
yeah, and instead
Yep.
of turning to like pharmaceuticals, like you have something that can kind of hope, not that saying that pharmaceuticals are horrible, but you can do
Right.
something naturally to support your body.
Yep.
And then when you need those, they'll
Yeah.
actually serve the purpose, and you're not putting the toxin load on your liver and
Yep.
having your body struggle even more.
Yeah. No,
But
that's yes, that's exactly, like, that was really, when I had started, like, switching to essential oils and stuff, that was what my came from, that was was the anxiety and stress support, but also understanding that now I have these plants in my hands and at the tips of my fingers that I can change my life with. And so it was like
It's like putting the
that was
power back into your hand that somebody else,
yeah,
once again, somebody else outside of you doesn't have to
yeah,
fix, that you
yes,
still have some control over our lives. Because I don't know about you, but for my anxiety, that's how I felt, is like nothing was in my control. So I tried to like
absolutely.
hyper control everything. So I
Yep.
felt somewhat of a safety.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, safe space. Yeah.
uh so for you, so then you realize like, hey, I have this adrenal fatigue. What was your next steps? Like, how did you go about to try to figure out how to heal that part of you?
Um, so that I think I just really deep dove into my research. I found out that, obviously doing things like eating whole foods and drinking enough water and getting enough sleep are all like going to be your foundational settings for that kind of thing. But what I really learned was that I needed proper electrolyte and mineral balance. And so that was something I was struggling with and I had struggled with for a really long time. And I didn't know it until I did this research. And what I then connected this with from my past is the fact that I was peeing about 75,000 freaking times a day. I'd drink some water, I'd have to pee. I'd drink some water, I'd have to pee. And it was getting to a
Flushing.
point. Exactly. My body was not absorbing any of the water really. And so here I'm drinking 3 32-ounce things of water a day. I'm only 120 pounds. That's a lot of water.
Yeah.
And to not be getting the benefits from it as much as I should be, I thought it was my anxiety causing it was urgent urination, and I thought it was from my anxiety. Come to find out, it was a
Your,
mineral imbalance
your
that
body's just
was
flushing everything out
it
because
was
like, I don't need this because it can't absorb it.
and the adrenals pump out a hormone that helps to obviously get the body going. And so for me, I always had my adrenaline pumping. Always. I was always going. I was always trying to find the next thing. I was always, always, always. And so, and if I wasn't going, I was finding the next move. Like that was how I lived my life. And
Hustle energy.
so, yes, exactly. And so when this kept happening with me passing out, and then I learned this information and stuff, it was like, oh my gosh, like all these cues just point to like not one thing, but like a thing that I can start.
Like a concrete thing that you can really like lean into.
Yes, exactly. It was like, I can start here. And so I used a little adrenal cocktail, it's called, orange juice, sea salt, and potassium or cream of tartar for potassium. And this little combination, it's only like, I think it was like 2 or 4 ounces of orange juice, and then a half a teaspoon of both the pink Himalayan sea salt and the um
Cream of tartar.
cream of tartar. Thank you. I'm sorry.
There you go.
And so then I would drink that in the afternoon, and I was doing that for probably a month, and I was noticing like increased energy. Like I wasn't peeing like crazy. It was like a serious, impactful, noticeable change, all from literally like making a couple of different life choices.
Mm.
And so after that, I I took it more to the next level, and Monet also has some pretty wonderful wellness products, and they have I was adding so they have a greens, so 37 fruits and vegetables, which all of the vitamins and nutrients that you're getting from the fruits and
The ones that will
vegetables.
actually absorb in your body. Like people don't realize
Yes.
that. Like you need
Yes.
the natural form. You can buy it in a pill, but if it isn't food based, like natural form,
Yep.
your body doesn't know what to do with it. So you're once again
Exactly.
taking it out.
And that's something that like people don't understand too, is there's such a difference between taking just a greens capsule and or
Yep.
just whatever, and an actual greens drink, and so adding that in with we have a collagen key, so it's a vegan collagen drink, and it helps us to so basically all it does is it helps our body to promote its own natural collagen, and inside of it has got I know
Hallelujah to
that's
that.
just that after 25 years old that starts to go downhill, so that's something that also people don't understand. It's like we gotta take care from the inside out, guys, like
Well, and
uh,
people don't realize, like, that's what I love when I look at supplements. I am not trying to just replace something. I am helping my body
trying
do
to
what it's
enhance
naturally
something.
designed to do.
Yes.
So that's why I
Yes.
love that you said that, like, helps your body produce the
Yeah.
naturally what it's doing. But if we think about it, like, because of all the stressors and the things that we have in our life,
Yeah.
that's why our body isn't functioning the way it normally
Right.
would.
Right. And so that's where like using these things as that supplemental enhancement, like I drink that drink. Oh, and then I just add those two things in with the potassium and the salt. And so I have that drink every single day, and my body loves it. Like I notice if life, sometimes I forget a day or two, but I honestly like it's so much like my digestion, my mood, my adrenals, like I just again, just such a simple shift, and adding to my diet and my lifestyle that has made such a big impact on my anxiety, on my health, and so it's just so interesting. Like, even when it came to like me quitting drinking, that is something that, in August of 2021, I mean, my life was in shambles at that time. That was the year that I spent in bed. I cried all the time. Like I literally could not have a conversation without crying. And it was just so intense. And I got to a point where it was like, I was noticing that I was using the alcohol to cope and that I had been doing that pretty much since I was 12 years old. And sadly, I mean, I grew up in an alcoholic household. That was what I knew. And so that was a part of running, it was
Yeah.
something I ran to. So when I was making this whole life change, my eyes were open and I was seeing what big things now needed to like, I had to get my head out of my ass pretty much. Like I really had to make that change and stop drinking, because it was getting to a point where, I mean, I have always been like, I'm not a one and done person. It's always like a bunch of shots or a bunch of bottles of wine, or I wasn't having fun. And so comprehending that kind of style of drinking was super negative for my
Absolutely.
healing
It's
journey.
like, I believe everything is medicine. And for me, like looking at that, like that when I was in a similar situation, I don't
Yeah,
drink really at all anymore because of that. Not that because it's bad, it's just because
sure.
my body doesn't need it. That's
Yeah,
not medicine that I need. And I
yeah,
realized the same type of thing is like I was using it I was so out of touch with who I am and in my feeling
yeah,
and anxious and trying to live somebody else's version of my life. Like
right.
instead of like being connected and wanting to live life for me, I was living under all these expectations of what people wanted from me and becoming who I thought they needed to be so I'd be loved and accepted and things
Right.
like that. And always walking on eggshells because what if I'm not good enough? And
Yeah,
so for me, I was the same way. I would just drink and I would drink, and for me, I would black out and I'd still function. And
yeah.
it was bad because I had no,
Wow.
I was still going and I was the life
Yeah,
of the party and everyone loved it,
same.
but there was no one like there. But for me, it was like, I finally got to be able to feel without like my head's telling me everything, like it
Yeah.
stopped the script in there. And I just got to like, I loved to drink and go like dance.
Yeah,
And
same.
I just let at that point, like I had to drink. So then it gave myself permission to do what I naturally do now.
Sure, same.
But I needed at that time, that's why it was in my life, is because that was the only way I allowed myself to feel.
Yes, exactly.
And so then I
Well,
would have these points of like, I was sometimes that sad, like I would go from the life of the party. And sometimes like when I was in my safe space with my girlfriends, I'd be like a sapping ball of like tears, like just
yeah.
crying. And all of a sudden, like my life is falling apart. Like I normally would never say to anyone, but I
Well,
just, that
that's
filter's gone.
Yeah. Well, that's what was happening with me was I was that exact life of the party, and then my husband would pick me up and it would literally turn into like a black night. Like it would just like the words I would say, I was very unkind to my husband numerous times from my words, and saying things like, "Oh, you don't love me," and blah blah blah, and trying to literally throw myself out of the car, and like that's the kind of things that were starting to happen, and it was all stemming from the fact that I didn't feel love for
Yeah,
myself.
exactly.
I was allowing life to run me, and I was allowing my anxiety to take me for a sprint, and my depression had gotten that was when my depression was at an all-time high.
And he was your
And that
safety zone. So that's when
Yes,
like that's when we're mean to the people that we love the most, because
yes.
like that's, and
Oh
my
my,
husband says that to me all the time, like
I
or
have
my relationship.
5% battery left.
Oh,
Uh-oh. Okay.
if it dies, we'll figure it out.
Okay. But yeah, your
But
husband?
like he was saying too, like he's like, I take it out on you because for one, his like saying was like, you're the closest to me. But what he was
Yeah.
saying in that is like, you are my safety zone, and I know it's not right, but
Yeah.
I know that you
I
love
can
me unconditionally, and you're the only source that's ever done that. And so I
Yeah.
know no matter what I say, like you're still there.
Yeah.
And
Well, and the
and that's not good to be somebody's punching bag and vice versa.
right.
Like, but that's how it was in is
And
that you are
and
my
that's
safe
common.
haver.
It's so common. That is really like I know he wouldn't leave me. But that was something that like the very last night I drank, that was an 18-hour day of drinking and then a 9-hour spit of puking, which then I remember like laying on the couch and I was dying, and he looked at me, my husband, and he goes, "So what are we going to do for next time?" And I said, "I think that there's not going to be a next time." And he goes, "I think that's a really good idea."
Yeah.
And so the fact that he was like, "What are we going to do for next time?"
And that triggered something in you to say, hey, I'm not alone.
I literally like when I think of that conversation, it just gives me chills because it's like he was never gonna give up on me,
Yeah.
even in my shittiest moments,
And that's love.
and that's freaking love, man. And
When I
so
say for better, for worse, it's not just you, it's not just me, it's we always.
yeah, absolutely. So yeah, that was I will never forget that moment. And it was really it wasn't a hard choice at that time because I had done
Yeah.
bad so many times that by that point it was like this is gonna be easy. Like that's how I like mentally told
Well, and it was
myself like,
almost like you just needed the permission and the reminder.
uh-huh,
He was
yeah,
that sole reminder of like,
yep,
thank you, this is what I want, and thank you
yeah,
for bringing it to my attention.
yep, exactly. And we're such team players together that it's like I will do anything for you and he will do anything for me. Like that's just how we play. And so but yeah, it took me quite a while to start to really feel better and start to I don't know, it took me like because I chose to sober up in August, and it probably took me till I started therapy the following February.
Mhm.
And so that was a huge thing for me. I think that the drinking had been such a block for me, an excuse to not actually
An escape.
heal
Yep.
and escape. And so when that was removed from my life, I had no other reason
Yep.
to not like,
But then it's like you finally, like you could see it all in like, okay, I see you, I feel you, and I'm ready to move on because I don't want to live like this. I
yeah,
want to be able to have
exactly.
this quality of life. And is that when the self-care and self-love all started to like take a presence in your life and saying like, I
Exactly.
want to live this way, and this is what helped me. And so I want to help other people see how easy and simple it can be.
Yeah.
Just love yourself.
Well, and exactly, because I had in therapy, I'll bet you it was my very first session. And he paused me and he goes, wow, he goes, you're really mean to yourself. And it was like, what? Okay. And he goes, tell me what you just said. And I repeated what I remembered. And he goes, no,
Not what you said.
no. And he goes, you called yourself a little bitch. And because I said I was just being a little bitch, and or something
Yep.
like that. And he goes, whoa. He goes, do you talk to yourself like that all the time? And it was like, "Oh,
Yeah, and I didn't realize it.
fucking shit, I bet I do. Even if it's joking, my
Yeah.
mind, my
Yeah,
subconscious
we don't know
doesn't
that.
know that. It only knows what I tell it.
Mhm.
And so if I tell it that it's angry, if I tell it it's embarrassed, if I tell it that I have to compare myself, it's going to do that.
Mhm.
And it's going to continue to do that until I stop it.
Yep.
And
Absolutely.
that was when my life just blossomed, was once I started therapy. I can honestly say that was the best choice I'd ever made in my life. Other than the obvious, marrying my
Yeah.
husband and
Yeah.
the good things, but it's um
On your
for
healing
my
journey, but
healing
like, yeah.
for my healing journey. That was something that I needed more than I could have ever imagined. And in all honesty, we all need therapy. We all need that unbiased
Well,
person
yeah, somebody that'll just
to talk
listen.
to. And so for people that think, oh, I don't need that. Yeah, you do. You probably need it just as much as the rest of us with anxiety and other shit,
I
and
mean, are you
so
a human? Do you have life experiences? I think that's
uh-huh.
like the category. Okay, everyone kind of fills in there, like
Yeah,
processing.
exactly. Yes. And so
Somebody just don't
that
hold space while you process, even that alone.
yeah, well, exactly. And so once I really started that part of my journey was when I started to feel more love for myself and trust myself. Because I
Yeah.
had spent so much of my life thinking, like, am I doing this right? Like, because that perfectionist life,
Yes. And
that
somebody knows
stemmed.
better than I do for my own body and my own well-being. It sounds
Yes.
silly looking like saying that out loud, but that's how it was.
Yeah. Well, and so that's something that that's exactly what started my whole um self-care. I've always loved self-care, but I've taken it to the next level now where I self-care all day. And I don't mean self-care like going to the day spa and things like that.
That was
I
my next question
mean,
of what does self-care look like and
yes,
self-love look like for you?
waking up in the morning and drinking water and taking my pre and probiotic supplement. It is starting my mindset off with some personal development and time with God. It is reading a book for 15 minutes or 10 pages to educate myself and continue growing. It looks like spending some time freshening up for the day because boy, do I always feel so much better and my depression goes away when I can brush my teeth and wash my hair and all
Feel
of
good
those
about
things.
myself.
So when I say I self-care all day, I mean I take care of myself.
You're
And
intentional about taking care of
yes,
your mind, body, and soul in all aspects.
yes. And so, like I said, self-care doesn't, I mean, don't get me wrong, I have a spa appointment on Monday. And so it's not
That's
that that's
part of
not
it, but
something.
that's not the all.
Exactly. And really people need to open their minds up to understanding that that self-love and self-care is something that we need to be very intentional about and implement in a daily life, in your daily life. Because we can only do so much and only do so much for others. We have to recharge our battery, otherwise it's going to die and we are going to become overwhelmed and we are going to be burnt out. And those are the things are that's when our body goes into that survival mode and the adrenals and all of those things become messed up. So um it's just so interesting to think how anxiety is just all of these little things that happen to us all day long, and that stress up
Yep.
here, it's just all day long. And now we have to really, we gotta let go of that shit. And there's all
Have
sorts of
space
ways
to
that we can
say,
do it.
hey, this is how I was feeling. And that's valid. That's perfectly
Yes.
fine. And I love that. But that's not where we get to live. We
Yeah.
get to pass through it and see, yep, that's where I was at. And now I'm choosing where I'm going. No one
Yeah.
else has to choose where I'm going. And that's something that was huge for me is like,
Oh,
I'm in
yeah.
control of my life. I'm living my life on my own terms. I can throw the freaking rule book out because I get to connect actually with me versus what everyone else wants from me. And say,
Yes.
what do I want? What do I need in this moment? How
Yeah.
can I show up for myself? Because guess what? The person we spend the most time with in our life is ourself. And
Yeah.
would you want to be in a relationship that like you were saying, like somebody that's calling you a little bitch
Yeah.
and like neglecting you and burning you out and
Yep.
putting your needs on the back
No
burner? Like
trust.
you'd be like, hell no, I want nothing
No.
to do with you.
Yep.
But we can't escape ourselves. And that's where the disconnect comes from.
We have to be our own best friend.
Mhm.
And how would you treat your best friend?
Absolutely.
With love, kindness, and respect. Bottom
Absolutely.
line. And so, yeah, no,
Yeah, for sure.
I
Like,
know. Yep. So I do. I love being able to, now that I'm feeling better and able to share, I really love that I'm able to help people and even just to understand that what self-care is,
and I want to
Um,
honor you and like really like celebrate you for listening to yourself and saying like
thank
you were
you.
saying how you kind of stepped back a little bit because you're saying this conversation that we're having right now last year you might not have been able to have it
Yeah.
fully and be in
Yep.
the same space is like, but you took that time to honor yourself and really turn in and say, okay, and really are walking your talk. You're
Yeah.
not just telling somebody to do something and expecting them to do it and you not living it so that
Right.
people can truly relate. And I think that is the type of mentors that you want. Like that's
Yeah.
what I'm all about too. Like I will share something with you, but I know what I'm sharing with you. I have experienced and embodied
Yes.
myself. And if
Yep.
I haven't, I will say, hey, this is something I'm playing around with. But
Yeah.
it might be something that
Exactly.
like I'm feeling called that it might be something you want to try out too. But
Yeah.
I haven't anchored it myself yet, but I've seen great success so far. Like
Yeah.
that to me
That's
is
truth
huge.
and honesty, even with yourself.
Yeah, and that's
'Cause
how
that's
it
not
started.
setting
Is the
high
more I was in
expectations.
yeah,
Yep.
the more I was in integrity with myself and showed up with myself, what happens from in is a reflection of what's out and vice versa. So as
Right.
soon as I started trusting myself and loving myself and being honest with myself, like radically honest with myself and
Yes.
falling into my own bullshit, like
Yeah.
my own bullshit stories that keep coming
Yep.
up and saying,
Yep.
no, that's not my truth.
Yep.
Not my truth. And being able to stop and pause and say, I love you for thinking that it's your
Yep.
truth. But
Yep.
I love you enough to not let you keep enabling you to keep that storyline. We're going to shift out of
Yep.
that and say that's where we were and that's okay, but this is where we're going because this is what we truly desire at the end of the
Exactly.
and that's what I think the whole journey of life is. And being a human being is being able to sit and process and go through that and feel the spectrums of both sides as men
Yeah.
those lows suck. But to be able
Yes.
to experience those lows is to be able to be joyous in those highs because otherwise
Absolutely.
you have
And
nothing to compare it
growth.
to. Yeah,
Growth comes from the lows. And
absolutely.
that's I was just listening to something that's like when when you aren't hearing God right in your ear, it's because he's working on your life.
Mhm.
And so that's something that has been really helpful for me too, is like sometimes like this last week I felt a lull or a plateau in my healing journey, and then something extreme happened and it was like, oh, you were working. Oh, you were busy working. Okay,
I always
okay.
say for like that, I was like, God is always with you and God is always working with you. It's a co-creation
Oh,
of life with God. And when we think we ask for something and he's not listening, God's listening.
oh
God's
gosh,
in the
yeah.
places like we feel like, oh, we're stuck. And really he's like, honey, you're at a pause right now
Yeah.
because I'm getting
Uh-huh.
things making a way
Ready.
for you.
Yes.
Because if you go right now, you're
You're
coming in
not
like a
ready.
hot mess. Like you need to be
Well,
able to prepare for the situation because that's true love too. Like
absolutely. Preparing you. Yes. Yup. So that was it's just so interesting how to think about that. It's like even when we feel low, it's like something is really happening for us. And so we just have to, again, I can't say it enough, just that mindset shift. pivot that little bit, and your mind can go so far.
Yeah. And you can stop and say, okay, like this is the lens. Like, this is what I always, I always think simple, like little kids. I have little kids
Yeah.
and this,
Yep.
like, okay, so I have glasses on. People are listening. They can't see that. It's like, okay, so I feel like crap right now. Like, this is a horrible situation. Like, I do not feel good.
Yeah.
I'm sitting here and then I'm like, okay, it's like I grab my glasses and okay, I'm looking through these lenses right now, literally. I'm going to take these off, shift them over here. Let me take something else on and see what other avenues can I see this? What other direction? Like, because there's always more than one side of the story.
Right.
So let me try on and see all of the pieces. So then I get a deeper understanding. When I ask questions, like I was always like scolded as a kid of like, stop asking questions, just have faith, blah, blah, blah. But like for me, like my questions and that curiosity, that childlike wonder is what we need to tap back into, because that gives you the full picture and the understanding to come with grace and love and that compassion.
Well, because as a child, you have no perspective yet. You have nothing to alter that thought. So it's like brand new. And so versus as an adult, you've now lived, you've had your experiences, and that alters things.
Well, and so everything is like, you're looking at it for the brand new time. Like somebody tells you something and they don't automatically take it. Like I'm thinking of my 5-year-old. You say, hey, this snow is cold. He doesn't say, okay, the snow's cold. He goes, huh. Yeah. Let me see. And he sticks his hand in the snow. Yes. And okay, it does make that sensation on my fingers. Like that's the thing. Like, and that's what I try to do with the certain like scripts that run in my head. Is like they don't just say, hey, it's truth. It's like, okay, so this is feedback that I'm getting from the universe. Like this is the feedback I'm getting. Is this my truth? Well, right. And that's where the questions and like coming from, not like interrogation, but that loving curiosity of look at all the angles. Okay, maybe I see how I understand how I was feeling and I validate that, but leaning over here, maybe I misinterpreted. Maybe her looking at me like that wasn't her judging me. Maybe, but maybe her mind was going through this like this whole story and she was feeling insecure and she just
maybe she was having a bad day.
Yeah, and she happened to look at me that way and
straight.
And really had nothing to do with me, but my own wounding,
anxiety, insecurities,
that created this story in our head.
Yes.
And then it's just like those aha moments. It's like the light bulb goes on and like, okay, I am the creator of my reality.
Absolutely. And while I cannot control everything that happens, I can control myself. Yes. And even with that though, yes, I can't control like all of my emotions.
Yeah.
But
we shouldn't have to. And to be loving to our emotions and understand every emotion is just our body telling us something. Like our emotions are just telling, hey, this is what's going on. Like you just hit a trigger point. And we need to lean into that trigger point now.
Well, and how I look at it too is like, hold on, what was I saying? What were we just talking about?
We're talking about emotions and how they serve a purpose.
Yeah. So how I look at it too is like how I attempt to control myself or my emotional state is even just by acknowledging it and giving myself the okay to feel that feeling has put me now in control of the feelings.
Yeah.
And that for me is just so altering. Like it is so cool to think that while no, I can't control my feeling, I can control that I'm allowed to feel.
Absolutely. And that right there, like the whole world needs to like repeat and say louder for the back, like to be able to feel like we shut off our feelings so much. For me, it's like, I have a feeling and I acknowledge that feeling. And so we're so quick to like push the feeling away.
Push it away. Yep.
Shut it down. I mean, I can speak for myself. Like that's what it is. Like I feel anger. Oh, I shouldn't be angry.
Yes.
Being angry means that I'm a bad girl. Like, like I don't want to be like this. And now it's like, I greet it like a friend, like, okay. Hey, honey, what are we doing? Because anger is just something is triggering our boundaries where we're not feeling like either safe or like we're feeling violated or something like something is not just.
Yes.
And that's your body.
And it's a valid feeling.
Not aligned.
So valid.
And so for me, I allow myself to feel. And I don't skip this step. Like for me, even when my healing process, I was like, okay, so I can do this. And now, okay, I'm feeling this. I'm acknowledging it. Okay, now what can we do to make it better? No. Let's pause there. Like I'm going to allow myself to feel angry in a healthy way. I'm not going to project my anger to anyone else. I'm going to step back and sit with the medicine that is coming through
Right. Right.
and saying, okay, I see you, you're serving a purpose, you're coming here, you're bringing me a message. What is that message? Allowing that energy to really come in, fill my body, and then flow back out.
Right.
Because otherwise, if I don't truly feel it, I'm storing it and I'm done storing it.
Yes.
So allowing
Yes.
myself to, and then once you do that and you take that time to truly feel it to its peak, its whole way, and watch it wane out, then you can say, okay, so I felt angry. I
Yeah.
felt angry. What is the story under it?
Yep.
Why am I feeling this?
Right.
Okay, because really it has nothing to do. So you said something and it made me angry. It has nothing to do with you.
Right.
My issues right here of my reactions really have
Yeah.
nothing to do with the current situation. That was the cherry on top. There's
Right.
so much piling up. All the layers of the cake are piling up and piling up and
Yeah.
piling up.
Yeah.
And it's my turn now to kind of step back and say, okay, the top is burst off here. Now I get to kind of go through and address those layers as I feel safe enough to do.
Yes. Yeah.
It's not a marathon. Like
No.
it's not like you have to do all in one sitting. It's like I said earlier, like the peeling of the onion, trying to find
Right.
core. Like it's I love this layer of me. I'm not throwing it away. I'm leaning in and seeing what is actually here for me to learn, the medicine that's here in the story and all of that. Like I'm really accepting and loving and understanding each layer and knowing that there's a reason why I stored it in the first place. My body's
Absolutely.
smart. It's
Right.
super smart. And so I need to trust that and stop telling my body that it's dumb. And then I know
Mhm.
that because the brain doesn't
Right.
know better.
That's exactly it. Yeah. And I even, like I said, how, I'd call myself names and stuff. That was just it. Like I have spent so many years mad at my body and my mind and everything in between that it's like I am peeling that onion back and opening myself up to just this to who I am, to the real me. I'm
And
not
that's what
meant
it
to
is.
be
It's like,
angry. I
yeah,
wasn't
it's
put on this earth to live and feel shitty all the time. Like, no.
what type of creator would design us for that though? Like
I
we are not
know.
designed to suffer. We do that
Yes.
to ourselves.
Yes.
Like our creator wants us to have a good quality, beautiful life full of
Yep.
experiences, full of
Yep.
expression. That's
Yes.
why we have these things on our heart, but we get in our own way.
Yeah. Yep.
We
In
give
society.
ourselves permission.
Yep.
And so to be, well, and even in society will tell us something, but we take it in as truth of whether
True.
we're
And
going
then
to
how
follow
do
it.
we take it?
Like,
Yes.
yeah. So, I mean, yes,
It all starts with
there,
us.
but we forget, we give the power away to everything else, but we forget we are the one in charge.
Yes.
And we create our own reality and how we perceive that reality. And so even in like this is the thing that I like on my journey, I've realized like even in the worst of storms, I have that beacon of light, that hope. It's like the lighthouse in the storm.
Yeah.
Like now that I've found myself, and the more like now the anxiety, it's still there here and there. Like we were saying, it's
Yep.
like that little part of me that comes up. It will always be a part of me saying
Yeah.
something off. But for me, it's the disconnect. So,
Yeah.
so when I feel the anxiety, it's something that I'm not connecting with myself. So I'm either
Right.
denying or
Working.
suppressing an emotion
Yep.
or a thought or my body or my soul, like something. So it's for me, it comes up and it's almost like a pause in my nervous system because I can't, like, I feel it starts
Yep.
bubbling. And so it allows me the space to go, okay, where am I not connected? Where am I not
Right.
connected to my truth?
Yeah. Where am I not
what
being
is
true
the
to myself?
disconnect? Yep. There is a disconnect here, and that's why the anxiety is there. It's anxious energy because I'm disconnecting from who I am.
Right.
So then I get to lean into that and figure out where that is. So then I can find my core center again.
Yep. Yep. Absolutely.
So much beautifulness coming through. Like
Yes, I
I love these
agree.
conversations.
Same.
I'm just trying to think, is there anything else that you want to make sure that we discuss, or any last messages you want people to really know before we kind of wrap things up?
I think that a last message kind of that I'd like to share is for the people that are struggling and are where we were or have been, don't give up on yourself.
Yes.
There is a solution. You just have to try. You really just have to try. And life is not meant to be easy. So don't think that you're the only one not catching a break. Okay. We have all got our own shit and our own baggage. So we're all in this together. And therapy, get some therapy. Everybody
Well, you're
needs
not, yeah, you're not in this struggle alone. Like
Yep.
there is, like, even when we feel, because I remember like feeling so lonely and no one else
Yep.
could, like, but that is a lie in itself. That is the biggest core lie
Yep.
that we tell ourselves.
Absolutely.
And so leaning into your resources, the people that you feel trust, if they can't support you, finding somebody, or literally just sending that message out to the universe of,
Yeah.
I just need somebody that gets me
Yep.
in old space. And look at, that's how we came together.
Yep.
Like you are
Exactly.
always supported and always held. You just have to remember that. You have to come back
Yeah.
into remembrance.
Yep.
Piece. Like
Absolutely.
it feels hard, and I'm not saying that. Like I've been there. I know
Yeah.
the struggle. Like I can feel it as I'm like tapping back into that old version. Like, but you're not alone. We're never meant to be alone. Like human
Yeah.
beings are not meant to be just one.
Nope.
And lean into that love. Lean into that love for yourself. Lean in for others. Let somebody mirror that divine love back to you when you
Yes.
feel like you don't have it. And
Yes. You have to
people
just
are out
allow the love to come in. You have to allow it. That's the thing too, is you have to be open
there.
for
Mhm.
these things to come into your life, because if you're closed off and you're not allowing the universe to work its magic and its flow through you, that's where you're going to continue to struggle. So,
Absolutely. And sometimes we hit rock bottom before we have to crumble. The pieces
oh gosh,
that has to
I've been all
crumble.
over rock bottom.
Yeah, you have to crumble to be able to then see what is actually my truth and what do I want to move forward for. All of this
Yep.
has to fall away, but for a reason.
Yeah. Yep.
Your creator takes the things away, and it's not really a taken away. It's moving it out of your way for you to connect into your truth because it wasn't
Right.
serving you. But in
Yes.
that time, it doesn't feel like that. You don't see the bigger picture because you're in
No.
that moment. So
Yep.
just trusting literally comes back to that trust. And you, in order to have that layer of trust, because I know people saying that, like, how do you have such a rock solid like foundation and have such
Yeah.
deep trust? I didn't always.
No.
I didn't
Same.
trust myself. The
Yep.
more I leaned in and trusted and got to know myself and spent that time,
Yeah.
it doesn't take forever. It's just literally looking at when you walk across the mirror, look
Yeah.
at it
Yep.
every single time and say, hey, I love you. You know,
Yep.
the first time I did that, I bawled
Yep.
because all I could feel is so much rejection and
Yes.
hurt. I
Yep.
couldn't even look myself in the eyes.
Aw,
Like,
I can feel that. Mm-hmm.
and like now I can say, like, I may not be picture perfect, like the supermodel type, but I can tell you, and I look at myself, I love that woman more than anything in the world because I know where she's
Aw,
been and I know where she's
good.
going. And I
Yep.
accept her from her past. I accept every mistake that I've made because mistakes are what got me to where I'm at. And those
Yep.
growth points, like mistakes are not the mistakes. It's really when you feel like you're falling down, dust your knees back up and get back up
Absolutely.
again and again and again, because that's how we grow. That's how we
Yeah.
build endurance. That's
Yep.
how we get to the
Absolutely.
next place, even
Yep.
when it feels hopeless.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Thank you so much for having this conversation and being with us. I know that this message is going to hit home and is going to resonate with so many people and be able to really tap in. And the tools that we're sharing, like they cost literally nothing. It's just
Nothing.
your
Yeah.
time.
That was how I did most of my journey until I got into therapy. Most of my things were very inexpensive because I didn't have a lot of money. I wasn't working a lot, and that was something that, and so for me, I am happy to always be able to share my tools because almost anybody has access to them. Even books, go to the library,
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like people think, oh, my healing journey is so expensive, and if I could heal if I did this. Like, but once again, it's another story we're telling ourselves,
Yeah. Yep.
and that's what I wanted to create in this podcast is giving real life, tangible experiences for people to
Yep.
relate to and see the tools that you can use that are at your fingertips right now. You just have to
Absolutely.
create space for it to do it. So,
And be
whatever
open-minded.
self-care
Yep.
is to you, and that's going to shift too. Like what self-care is to me now is different than it was a year
Yeah.
ago.
Yep.
And it'll be different from what it is a year from now.
Yeah.
Really just asking and tuning in and saying, okay, so what does self-care and what's this self-love look like for me right now?
Yep.
And really
In your
connecting
yeah,
back.
right now. Yep.
Yeah. And connecting back of like, like I always say, like I start my morning of like, good morning, gorgeous. Like, how can I
Yes.
show up for you today? Like,
Oh, I love
how can I
that.
care for you today? Because I
Yep.
love you so much. Like
Yep.
that is like part of my self-care myself, is really reminding
Oh,
myself, because the more I remind myself how much love I have for myself, the
yep.
more I allow others to love me too.
Oh, that's so beautiful. I love that.
Well, thank you again so much for being on and sharing
My
all of your
pleasure.
wisdom and your story with everyone.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Soul Revolution Tribe and being part of our soul family. If anything in this episode resonated with you, please subscribe, leave a review, and share your takeaways. You can find me on IG at Grow with Jackie B or on YouTube at Soul Revolution Tribe. I will see you next week for more soul conversations and medicine. Bye for now, and see you back soon.